Welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. R K Verma, ex-chief scientist CSIR NISCARE, which was earlier known as INSDOC. Today I will talk on the topic of organizational structure of the library. As you know, this is one of the major functions of management. Under library management, after planning, organizing the institution library is the most important function of the management. The term organizing relates to the process of defining formal relationship among employees or personnel and resources like raw materials, equipments, and capital, etc., to accomplish set goals. Organizing actually the process of devising the mechanism through which the efforts of people are directed and coordinated towards goal achievement. In this module, the various principles, characteristics, elements as guidelines and models of organizing structures in libraries will be described. A few features of good organizing have also been enumerated along with the organizational charts, how to prepare that. Before we proceed further for describing the organizational structure of library in various components, let us be clear about the objectives first. First of all, the main objective is to know the process and principles of structuring and related aspects and apply the principles and procedures for creating an organizational structure of a library, describing its meaning, what are the elements, what are the functions of the structure, so as to understand the working of the structure along with their models and know the basis for departmentalization. Organization as process. It determines the various types of activities based on their performance and objectives of the organization. It groups the identified activities into closely related and similar activities as departments and divisions, and further into sections if necessary. It decides about the key departments which require more attention and their relative importance. It determines the various levels for which major and minor decisions are to be taken. Determines the number of subordinates who should report directly to each executive or officer. It sets up coordinate mechanism so that various departments, divisions, sections work together in a synergetic way. What is organizational structure? The structure defines the pattern of vertical flow of authority, that's level, and the area over which the authority runs is known as the span of an organization. What is organizational level? As an illustration, level 1 is librarian, level 2 is deputy librarian, level 3 assistant librarian, and level 4 senior professional assistant. Organizational span, on the other hand, includes all heads of the departments like projects, publication department, traditional library services department, and digital libraries working under chief or director information. Before we actually proceed for the implementation of any organizational structure, the library, some effective guidelines have to be prepared. These are best understood in terms of principles of organizing. The key activities, for example, the key activities should be clearly defined and grouped on some logical basis. Number 2, the responsibilities of each division, department, unit, and job should be clearly defined. Responsibility and authority should be made equal. Then authority should be delegated as far as down in the organization as possible. The number of employees reporting to each officer manager should be reasonable. The organization should be designed in such a way to provide stability and flexibility, perpetuation, and self renewal. The organization structure should be evaluated and may be restructured if needed on the basis of its contribution to the organization's objectives. Some more principles for efficient organization are enumerated as principles of unity of objectives, efficiency, specialization, flexibility, scalar principle, personal ability, unity of command, span of control, unity of direction, delegation, absoluteness of responsibility, and authority level principle. Principle of unity of objective. This states that the organizational structure should facilitate the contribution of individuals to the achievement of organization's objectives. This is possible only when the organization has clearly defined objectives. Principle of efficiency. According to this principle, the objectives of the enterprise must be accomplished with minimum unsought consequences or cost. The organizational structure should enable the enterprise to function in an efficient way. Let us describe what is the principle of specialization. This principle states that effective organization must promote specialization. As per this principle, the officers or executives at higher levels should be approached only in case of exceptionally complex problems. But routine matters should be dealt with by the subordinates themselves at subsequent lower levels. This is due to the limited time available with them. The next principle of flexibility relates to the fact that organization should be adaptable to changing circumstances and should permit growth, expansion, and replacement without disturbing or dislocation and disruption of the basic design. Scalar principle. There should be a clearly defined ultimate authority in every organization. This will ensure more effective organizational performance and communication. The responsibility should flow from the top management downwards in a clear, unbroken line of authority. The chain of command is the line along which authority flows from the top of organization to any individual. Principle of personal ability. The organizational structure must ensure optimum use of human resources. Unity of command. Each person should report to only one immediate superior. That is, each employee should have only one supervisor. Dual subordination must be avoided. Span of control, that is span of management. There should be a limit of number of direct subordinates reporting to a manager. The span of control should be minimum and should depend on the nature and variety of activities, the time required for each activity and the person. Principle of unity of direction. There should be one objective and one plan for a group of activities having the same objective. Unity of direction facilitates unification and coordination of activities at various levels. Delegation of authority and responsibility. In this process of a delegation of authority, there should be a consideration of the results expected, the task assigned, the degree of delegation required to accomplish, and the task and responsibility to be fixed. The authority delegated should be equal to the responsibility. Further, there are three sub-principles related to delegation. These are principle of delegation, principle of absoluteness of responsibility, the authority level principle. Principle of delegation. This states that the authority delegated to an individual officer or manager should be adequate to ensure his ability to accomplish the results expected from him or her. Principle of absoluteness of responsibility. This principle says that the responsibility of the subordinate to his superior for performance is absolute, and no superior can escape responsibility for the organizational activities of his or her subordinates. The authority level principle. This relates to the maintenance of intended delegation, which requires that decisions within the authority and competence of an individual officer or manager be made by him and not be referred upward in the organizational structure. Responsibility pertains to what one must do, and accountability is the process by which individuals can be called upon to justify their actions. Accountability is the process of enforcing responsibility. In general, one is administratively accountable to one's superior. It may be noted that the delegation not only helps to create an organizational structure, but also relieves an officer or manager of his heavy workload, leads to speedy and better decision, and boosts morale in the organization. However, there are some hurdles to effective delegation. For example, fear of loss of power, lack of confidence in subordinates, fear of being exposed, inability and difficulty in briefing, and the feeling that one can do it better itself. One of the most important topics in the organization structure, rather we can say the burning issue, is centralization versus decentralization. This is the major issue, as I told, in organizing libraries. Centralization is the degree to which authority is retained by higher level managers within an organization rather than being delegated. There are many arguments in favor of both centralization and decentralization. A manager has to take note of some important factors before deciding on the degree of centralization. The positive points of centralization are: number one, the uniformity of policy and action, fewer risks of error by subordinates, utilization of skills of central specialized experts, and enabling closer control of operations. On the other hand, decentralization has some merits or advantages. For example, it produces speedier decisions and actions on the spot. Then decisions that are more likely to be adapted or changed to local conditions. Then greater interest and enthusiasm of subordinates is ensured, and saving the time of the top management for other activities like planning, policies, etc. Delegation versus decentralization. This is another issue which is to be understood. It may be noted here that delegation is a process, whereas decentralization is the end result of delegation and dispersal of authority. In delegation, a superior continues to be responsible for the work delegated to his subordinates, whereas in decentralization, the supervisor is relieved of his responsibility for that. Delegation is essential, but decentralization is not, that is optional. Term coordination and integration. You must know the difference between the two. What is coordination? It is the process of ensuring that persons and units who perform interdependent activities work together in a way that contributes to overall goal attainment. While integration is the unified control of a number of successive or similar operations, an effective organization structure not only requires vertical and horizontal coordination, but also perfect integration of functions. Vertical coordination is concerned with linking of superiors and subordinates of units at different levels of the organization. Horizontal coordination is concerned with linking of peers and units at similar organizational levels. Then what are the characteristics of organizing? The functional similarity is the main basis and criteria for grouping similar work activities. But some of the factors which affect the objective of grouping functionality similar works are inadequate volume of work to allow specialization, then traditions, work rules, personal preferences, and similarly are functions like inventory control to others in the organization. Then we come over to the elements of organizational structures. What are the elements? First is job description and making organizational charts by the network of formal relationships and duties. Then tasks and duties should be assigned to different people and departments to be known as differentiation. Separate activities and tasks should be coordinated, that is integration. Maintaining the power, status and hierarchical relationships within the organization, that is authority system. The planned and formalized policies, procedures and controls that guide the activities and relationships known as administrative system. And finally, the flow of information and communication network. Let us now discuss something about the basic premises, or you can say which are practiced, and you can say the models in a sense on which the effective organizational structure can be maintained. There are 5 major types or forms of formal organizational structures. These are departmentalization based structure, number 2 bureaucratic structure, 3 project organization based structure, metric based structure, and lastly the network based structure. Let us discuss these models one by one. First one is departmentalization based structure. This structure involves a logical grouping of activities into departments, divisions, groups, sections, with the authority which is reduced hierarchically downwards the line. Normally, the following bases are used to establish departments. For example, subjects on the basis of function or territory, on product or customer. A library may use combination of several methods or combination of above the item which I have told, keeping in view the purpose of creating a structure that is an effective service. As an example, a public library generally may have a subject unit by combining several subjects, circulation unit by function, service to business or children by customer based, and branch libraries on territory based. So these are the 5 bases on different criteria. An example of public library which covers all these type of bases. Then next is the bureaucratic structure. This is the oldest form of organization to develop and is hierarchical in nature, formal, mechanistic, you can say, in nature. It has some fundamental features like limited span of control, unity of command, equal authority and responsibility, delegation of routine matters, and still from the foundation, which form the foundation of most management structures. Then comes the project based structure. The scope of the work involved in project mode and its management includes complexity of operations, fixed time schedules of delivery, numerous components and agencies to be dealt with. Also, the need for a great deal of planning, research, coordination and control are features common to large projects. Then the common example we can take is the library automation, which is conducted in the project mode involving staff with different specializations. For example, library science, computer science, administrative and financial aspects, etc. Then comes the matrix-based structure. This is an organizational structure which facilitates the horizontal flow of information. It is used mainly in the management of large projects or product development processes, drawing employees from different functional disciplines for assignment to a team without removing them from their respective positions. It also deals with multiple products and or projects, organizing on the basis of products or projects to an appropriate method of division of work and responsibility. This type of division, when integrated with the functional organization, constitutes a type of matrix-based structure. Lastly, the employees in a matrix organizational report on day-to-day basis and of their performance to the project or product manager, whose authority flows sideways, that is horizontally, across departmental boundaries. Then comes the network-based structure. A network-based structure is found when two or more geographically separated organizational units with common functions are joined together through channels of communication. For example, hotel chains, airlines follow this type of network structure. Libraries also work on this concept of resources utilization and sharing. In this type of structure, the enterprise relies on outside agencies or companies rather than hiring workers for all of its business functions. Features of a good organizational structure. What are the features? Number one, organizational levels and span of management should be balanced to achieve optimum results. For example, too many levels lead to confusion, a diffused exercise of authority, an increase in overhead costs, blocking of communication channels, and a lack of consistency and cohesiveness in decision making in a few hands. The span of management depends on the level and may vary from organization to organization. A span with say 3 to 5 subordinates at higher level and 5 to 8 at lower level, where subordinates have to work out only specific tasks, seems to be most conducive for obtaining the best results in library organization. This structure can cope with continuously evolving nature of the organization and hence allows flexibility and ability to respond to external and internal changes in the environment. There are some points which are to be taken into account while forming organizational chart. First of all, what is organizational chart? An organizational chart is simply a graphic representation of organizational structure which indicates hierarchical and vertical positions, span of management, relationship between the line and staff position, flow of authority, responsibility, and communication. It gives an overall picture of this structure, so it is easier to identify the weak links in the chain, conflicting situations, friction, and imbalances, if any. This exercise helps in restructuring the whole organization also. With the passage of time, an organizational structure becomes inflexible and may not cope with the uncontrolled changes in external environment, which may create uncertainty in the minds of employees. On the other hand, too many changes in short time may give rise to the condition of instability and confusion among the staff. And lastly, in such a situation, a balanced approach keeping in view the basic elements of organization may be fruitful. Dear students, I hope you must have understood the various principles of organizational structure in the library and some models which are in practice already. And it depends on the type of library, which structure suits, and you may use combination of many criteria like subject, territory, function, etc. I will like to emphasize on 2 points in this module. Number one is the issues which has been raised, that is centralization versus decentralization and decentralization versus delegation. You must have more insight into that by actually going through more literature on that. And another point is, I have touched upon lastly organizational chart. Though diagram or figure is given for that, you must consult some literature on that so that you may have the visual grasp
on the how the organizational charts are made. Though given the principles and what goes into that and details of the charts, what should contain, I think it will be more useful to you. Thank you.